They have already deluded a great percentage of the population with a so-called Martian meteorite that somebody discovered in a bog in Antarctica, yes, it was Antarctica. And they held a great press conference. And they spoke initially for about an hour talking about this meteorite, and they were very careful to say that there was no life in the meteorite. And what they found in the meteorite was probably not life, and that it could have been something that got in the meteorite when it landed here on Earth. And then after that, after they told everybody the truth, they spent several hours after that telling you the lie. As they went down the table, and one by one, they talked about how wonderful it was that they had found evidence of life on Mars, after having disclosed to the world for an hour that there was no life in this meteorite, that it had never been life, that there was no evidence that it was ever life. And I have it on tape, folks. It was a joke, a great joke. And then in the next day, the newspapers around the world picked it up and the headlines blared, "Meteorite discloses evidence of life on Mars." And then there was column after column after column of how this meteorite proved that there is life other than humans in the solar system and that they lived on Mars. And then some newspapers here in this United States began to propose that the meteorite brought life from Mars to Earth, and we were all descendants of the ancient Martians. And not too long ago, a very famous person made the statement that we are all Martians. I don't know how many of you heard that. I'm not going to tell you who it is right now tonight, but one of these Friday nights I will. For we're going to delve deeply into all of this. We're going to reach down in the bottom of the pond and stir the sludge off the bottom. We're going to cause a current that will bring it up to the top and bear it to the light of day so that we can all look at it and see what it says. For the thrust of this is to destroy religion, and in specific the Christian religion, and any other religion that believes that man was created here on this earth by God. For they're going to say that these Martians created us by interbreeding with backward, unevolved animals here on this earth. And they're going to point to the place in Genesis where it talks about the Nephilim, or the gods interbreeding with people here on this earth, produced a race of giants and other things undiscussed. And we will, one of these Friday nights, quote from Genesis and tie all of this together. But tonight is just to acquaint you, and I've been telling you ever since, every year. I've done many broadcasts on this. I have made predictions that have come true just like clockwork, right on the money. I told you years ago that there will come a day when they will claim that there is life on one of the moons of Jupiter, Europa. I even named the moon, ladies and gentlemen, and lo and behold, that is exactly what happened within the last year. Now they are going to tie these supposed alien artifacts, the only proof of their existence being NASA photographs, which has been discredited as a body of evidence, to the ancient religions of Egypt. The movie Stargate planted that idea in the subconscious mind of the people who watched it. There have been other movies along the same order. And they've been bandering that term Stargate around quite a bit, haven't they? Haven't they, ladies and gentlemen? For those of you who listen to the Art B.S. Bell show, you've heard quite a bit about Stargate as a project. You've heard quite a few of these phony remote viewers telling you what they saw out there. And coming catastrophes and all kinds of blathering nonsense. And many people listen to it and believe it. Did you know that Jack Parsons, one of the founder of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory of the California Institute of Technology, was a high-level member of the Order of the Golden Dawn? Did you know that most of the scientists at the Jet Propulsion Lab were also members? Did you know that all of these people held birthday parties each year on the anniversary of the birthday of Aleister Crowley, one of the most highly degreed adepts of the Illuminati, who practiced black magic and claimed that he was the Antichrist? Did you know that Jacques Vallée, one of the so-called premier scientists who are objectively looking at the UFO question, used to attend those meetings also? We have a photograph of Jacques Vallée sitting partly in light, partly in darkness, with his hand arranged around his eye so that his eye is in a triangle formed by his fingers. An inverted triangle. Those of you who have listened to my broadcast on symbology understand the significance of that. He was laughing at you. And at the same time, he was revealing his true identity to his brothers. At the highest levels of the fraternal organizations. All of these organizations, ladies and gentlemen, including the highest levels of the bureaucracy, of all of the different agencies of government, are in the hands of the Illuminati today. They are socialists. Their ultimate goal is a world much like Hitler envisioned. And Hitler pulled the same cons, ladies and gentlemen. You see, the New Age is not new. There was a New Age before this New Age, back in the 30s, which rose to prominence with Hitler. All of the SS officers had to prove, I forget how many exact generations of pure Aryan blood, but they had to prove that. Then they were shipped off to a castle replete with the trappings of the mystery religion, where they were indoctrinated into the order of the Illuminati. What is happening today, ladies and gentlemen, is very much the same thing that happened in Nazi Germany. The New World Order is going to be more like what Hitler envisioned than anything that Karl Marx ever dreamed about. Although Karl Marx was also a socialist. Karl Marx was a rabid racist. He was a Jew-hating Jew. He hated Jews and blacks and anybody else. In his writings, he made no secret that he was a racist, that socialism breeds racism. And I look around and I see all of these people, these blacks, Hispanics, Asians, all of these people who buy into the myth that socialism is going to liberate them. Socialism is going to re-enslave them. And it breaks my heart to work so hard to keep them free, only to see them working so hard to chain themselves once again. Did you know that Jesse Jackson is a Freemason? This man who claims that he abhors racism belongs to the Prince Hall Lodge, to an order that does not allow black men in the white lodges of Freemasonry, and has not in its history up until today, where a few, very select few token blacks have been allowed in a very few select lodges in order to say to the world, see, we're not racist. And the blacks have their own lodges called the Prince Hall Lodges. And the Jews have their own lodge called B'nai B'rith. And the Orientals have their own lodges called the Triads. All of the same order, ladies and gentlemen. All putting forth the myth that they're going to create a world where all people can get along and live together, and there will be no racism and no enslavement and no muggings and no robbings. And the space program is one of the methods that they are using to bring this about. How many of you have been watching the Pathfinder? Pathfinder, that ought to tell you something. It's going to discover the path to the New World Order. It's going to present you with what the world will be told is proof that extraterrestrial life either does exist now on Mars or has existed there in the past. For how can the Christian religion survive, ladies and gentlemen, except in the heart and the soul of the theological institutions where they already know all of this stuff? How can Christianity or any other religion survive when the world is presented with what they will believe to be proof that life on this earth was not created by God, but by some extraterrestrial advanced race from some other world? And that we have been owned by them and shepherded in our existence all through the history of the world. And that's the true purpose of the UFOs, flying saucers, and abduction reports, which are truly the end result of some very sophisticated mind control experimentation. The technology exists, ladies and gentlemen. I have seen it myself. It is owned and operated by the United States government and probably several other governments on this earth. I have filmed these things in the sky. I have watched them come in and out of secret test sites owned and controlled by the United States government. I have spoken to people who've worked on these projects in secret. I can never reveal their names. I can only tell you some of what they have told me, because to tell much more would begin to identify those people, and then they would disappear from the face of this earth for telling me these things. It is truly marvelous technology, but it does not belong to extraterrestrials of any kind from anywhere. And if you really studied the development of technology and the fact that anything that could have been valuable as a method of controlling humanity has always disappeared behind the veil of national security. Did you know, ladies and gentlemen, that the U-2 was flying many, many years before anybody knew that it existed?